This is a sports catastrophe production. Hey there, hey there, hey there. It's Jeff Carter and welcome you to another sports catastrophe on this day. And on this day, April 12, 1980, a one-legged runner would try to give Canadian hopes up in 1980. Canada had just gone through defeating a budget by Prime Minister Joe Clark, which meant that there was a federal election in 1980, which meant that Joe Clark was defeated and Pierre Elliott Trudeau would be back in 24 Sussex. But anyway, I'm talking about this guy, Terry Fox. Yes, he's dead, but the fact is he's a hero and all that. He was a Canadian athlete, humanitarian, and cancer research activist. In 1980, with one leg being amputated due to cancer, he went east to coast on a cross-Canada run to raise money and awareness for cancer research. Unfortunately, his quest ended after 143 days and over 5,000 kilometers. His efforts is a legacy. The annual Terry Fox Run, held in 1981, has grown to involve millions of participants in 60 countries, and it's the largest one-day fundraiser for cancer research. Over 750 million Canadians has been raised in his name. Fox was a decent person. He was a distance runner and basketball player for his high school and Simon Fraser University, but his right leg was amputated after he was diagnosed with osteosarcoma, and he ran using an artificial leg. He would play wheelchair basketball in Vancouver and doing well. And he decided to do the Marathon of Hope, a country run to raise money for cancer research. He wanted $1 from each of Canada's 24 million people at that time. He went from St. John's, Newfoundland, and would run the equivalent of a full marathon every day. And Fox had little fanfare, but then by the time he reached Ontario, he was a star and all that. He was close. He was not even to Manitoba until when he died and all that. The cancer spread to his lungs and all that. So he was born in Winnipeg, but then they moved to Surrey, British Columbia and all that. Terry Fox had a stubborn streak that basically led him to continue any activity until he succeeded. He was a good athlete. He tried to play basketball, but he failed, and was told that he should be a distance runner and all that. But he did basketball, and he was his high school's athlete of the year. And he went to Simon Fraser University and to study kinesiology as a stepping stone to be a phys ed teacher and all that. However, Fox got in an accident. He crashed his car in November 1976, and he had a sore right knee, but the pain in his knee intensified, and he got osteosarcoma, a form of cancer that starts near the knees. Fox thought that his car accident weakened his knee and left it vulnerable to disease, but there was no connection. He would have had to have chemo, and his leg would have to be amputated. So anyway, with a hell of an artificial outcome with an artificial leg, he was walking 3 weeks later. However, Fox was actually inspired after his cancer surgery by his coach gave him an article about Dick Traum, who actually was the first amputee to complete the New York City Marathon. It inspired him. He went on a training program and he developed a more extensive plan. And Fox was not happy with his own hospital experiences, that how little money was dedicated to cancer research. Fox had to run with an unusual gait because he had to hop step on his good leg due to the extra time the springs in his artificial leg required to reset after each step. It was painful training. But, he did all that. So anyway, Fox decided to get help for the Canadian Cancer Society, all that, and asked corporations for everything. Ford donated a camper van, Imperial Oil Country refueled, and Adidas his running shoes. So anyway, he decided to dip his right leg into the Atlantic Ocean near St. John's and fill 2 large bottles with ocean water. One was meant to be a souvenir, and one was to be poured into the Pacific Ocean once he completed his journey in Victoria. Fox was supported on the run by his good friend Doug Alward. However, the first few days were disappointing as the gale force winds, heavy rain, and snowstorms ruined him. However, he didn't get much of a reception and all that. By the time he went to Nova Scotia, Fox's 17-year-old brother Daryl was made as a buffer. All that. Fox had issues in Quebec because lack of ability to speak French, and people just wanted to drive him off the road. All that. He crossed into Ontario almost near Canada Day, and OPP gave him escort throughout the province. He would run the 26 miles of a marathon per day. On his arrival to Ottawa, he actually met Governor General Ed Schreier and Pierre Trudeau, who was, as I said, just named Prime Minister again. He did a ceremonial kickoff in Ottawa. And then July 11th would be the big one. 10,000 people met Fox in Toronto. He's honored in Nathan Phillips Square, all that. And he threw out the ceremony on the first pitch, the game between the Jays and Indians. Bobby Orr presented him with a check for $25,000. And Darryl Stiller gave Fox his All-Star Game jersey. The Cancer Society scheduled him to attend functions and give more speeches as Fox's fame grew. But there was a lot of things. All that. But the physical demands were huge and all that. He didn't want to take a day off, even on his birthday. He suffered shin splits and an inflamed knee frequently. He would have cysts on his stump and had dizzy spells. In spite of his problems, and he could recuperate pretty well, Fox figured by late August he was exhausted. He had lots of pains in his chest. September 1st, 1980, outside Thunder Bay. He didn't know what to do. And they found out that the cancer had returned and spread to his lungs. So basically, after 143 days and over 5,300 kilometers, he had to end his run. All that. Fox said he wanted to complete the marathon himself. Fox actually raised $1.7 million at that time, which wasn't what he intended. He wanted $1 per Canadian for $24 million. And he did figure that the Canadian nation would see the consequences of his disease and might lead to greater generosity. CTV organized a nationwide telethon, and the 5-hour event raised $10 million, which was pretty good. BC and Ontario donated $1 million each, and all that. By April 1981, donations hit $23 million, close to the $24 million that he envisioned. All that. Terry Fox got lots of mail and all that. He was made Companion of Order of Canada, making him the youngest person to be honored. And then the Lieutenant Governor of BC named him to BC's highest event. He was made the top athlete and the newsmaker of the year, 1980. He received chemo, but sadly the disease spread. Pope John Paul II sent a telegram hoping Terry would be okay and all that. And doctors turned to experimental interferon treatments and all that. However, he died June 20th, 1981, a month before his 23rd birthday. And the government ordered flags across the country lowered to half-mast and all that. But his legacy is huge. He was named second best Canadian of all time in a 2004 survey about the greatest Canadian, next to Tommy Douglas for universal health care. But he was one of the best people around. His run actually redefined Canadian views in disability and inclusion of the disabled in society and all that, with people with disabilities and all that. The Terry Fox run took place, the first one was in 1981, and basically it was amazing and all that. This is his legacy. Like, this is the honors he's got. There's at least 32 roads and streets named for him, including the Terry Fox Courage Highway in Thunder Bay. 14 schools that were renamed to Terry Fox Elementary School shortly after he died. And the Park Curriculum High School was renamed January 1986. 14 other buildings are named after him. 7 statues, including the Terry Fox Monument in Ottawa. 9 fitness trails. Mount Terry Fox is one of the Canadian Rockies now. The Terry Fox Fountain of Hope in 1982 on grounds of Reader Hall. An icebreaker was named after him. That was amazing and all that. Rod Stewart actually was so moved by the Marathon of Hope, he actually wrote and dedicated a song to Terry Fox called Never Give Up on a Dream, which was pretty impressive, all that. Google even celebrated Fox with a Google Doodle in 2020. There were several films about him. The first one was The Terry Fox Story in 1983. It was produced by HBO, and it was a TV movie in the US, and it had a theatrical run in Canada. Robert Duvall was in this one. It was criticized by Fox's family over his temper and all that. But The Terry Fox Story won 5 Genie Awards for Best Picture and Best Actor. A second movie was produced by CTV in 2005. And it portrayed him more positively. In fact, he was on ESPN's 30 for 30 series that basically documentary Into the Wind, narrated by Steve Nash, would be there. And you know, that was great for Canada to have something for 30 for 30 and all that. Yeah. However, Steve Fonyo, who actually suffered from the same form of cancer and also had a leg amputated, sought in 1984 to duplicate Fox's run. And he did it. March 31st, 1984. He started in St. John's and then completed the transcontinental run May 29th, 1985. Which was amazing and all that. And Rick Hansen, who was a Paralympic athlete, was inspired by the Marathon of Hope and decided to circumnavigate the globe in his wheelchair and all that. And he did it. He ran through 34 countries and over 40,000 kilometers in more than 2 years. So yeah, Terry Fox is an icon in Canadian history, and don't you forget that. I'm Jeff Diamond. Adu.